And I am so excited, like really, really excited to introduce this panel today. I've had so many conversations with Amber Buist, who is instrumental in helping me put this panel together, helping us just talk through what we want to share with you today. She is a wealth of knowledge, and I just am so grateful to all these people for giving us their time today. So Amber, I'm going to read a little bit about her bio. She works with up and coming independent artists of all genres, overseeing online marketing for major corporations. She's spearheading digital strategy and creation and online social media for bands. She's helped create marketing strategies that have made millions of dollars for her clients. And in the 90s, she was a tour manager for several national artists, worked in the travel industry, and was also signed to Arista Records as an artist herself. She's worked as an adjunct professor for online programming and marketing. She's spoken at national conferences, including the popular South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin, Texas, Power of Music Festival, Electro Forest, Millennium Music Festival, and now FARM. We have her here at FARM. Jay Gilbert, I learned of Jay through Amber, is a teenager. Jay smuggled his Canyon F1 into a rock concert to get the perfect shot of Queen and Van Halen and Cheap Trick, a man after my own heart. After college, he was also toured as a musician and got a whole bunch of experience in terms of what it takes to promote an album, and then later translated that knowledge as an executive with Universal, Sony, and Warner Music Groups. He moved to San Francisco, finally Los Angeles, where he worked at Universal for 18 years, and most recently as VP, New Media and Online Marketing for Universal Music Enterprises. And he's been on the cutting edge of digital sales and marketing with Universal Entertainment, Fox, and Warner. He's been working with the likes of Elton John and the Accidentals, of course, and some other amazing artists, too big to name here. And finally, on the panel, we have this wonderful band. Those of you who've been to our Tech Talks are familiar with SAV, but this is the full trio, female-fronted multi-instrumentalist power trio that is SAV Buist, Katie Larson, and Michael Dause. Billboard magazine calls the Accidentals, says the Accidentals display a genre-hopping range of influences and smart songwriting skills to go with their abundant musical chops. I just think that's an understatement, personally. They've toured the US, the UK, scored films, composing, arranging, recording, and they're the string section for a lot of major acts. Nashville gives them a ring when they need a great string section. Honestly, these kids have also found the time to do some pretty amazing work since quarantine, since the gigs dried up, and I'm really excited for them to share all of that with you today. So without further ado, I'm putting away my script. I am spotlighting the wonderful Amber Buist. Oh, not you. Oh no, Amber, come back. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Start your video. How come I can't spotlight you? Am I no longer a host? Oh my God, you'd think I'd never done this before. Amber, thank you.
I don't know if I love the highlight. We're good.
You're good. You're gorgeous.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you. Okay, guys, we're going to cover a lot of stuff today, and I don't want anybody feeling overwhelmed. If you take away one thing from today, that's it. That's good. And I want to make sure that you understand that, like, everything we list today is real. We've done it. We've tried it, so it's tried and true, but it also takes time. So it's not instant gratification. Like, whatever the work is on this list, whatever we do today, it's really going to kind of show itself in October, like the end of September, beginning of October. So there's no instant grat. This is just real, hands to the grindstone, get it done, sort of how to make money in this time. And I think I'm going to start with just the obvious. We all know that we can still connect online and the live streams are still working, but how to make money from the live stream is a whole nother story. So I'm going to start talking about the paywall live streams first. And I think the paywall live streams are really for the artists out there who have a solid online base and a solid newsletter base. And I say that because newsletters, that newsletter direct marketing, that email that goes direct to someone really seems to be what is still selling seats for that paywall online situation. So right now we're planning for October for our paywall shows. We currently use StreamYard to crowdcast. And I won't get into the StreamYard to crowdcast part, but I will say that we went through about 7 different platforms to find one that actually did all the things that we wanted it to do so that we could get the maximum amount of marketing. One of the things that I love about StreamYard is it allows you to have a sliding scale payment. So people can pay anywhere from $10 to as much as you want to put in there. We typically do a 20 to 50 scale. And at that 50 mark, you get a VIP experience. So a lot of times we'll do a Zoom call prior to, and that's the meet and greet, and we'll send out some merch for that $50 margin. But we allow people to decide 20 to 50, how much do you want to pay? And then also in the screen of Crowdcast, there's a call to action button at the bottom. And so once they've paid for their ticket while they're watching the show, that call to action, it can say like support the band here or purchase merch. It can say a lot of things, but you can also drop a smart URL in there that will allow people to decide what they want to do. So when they click on that call to action, they can either go and buy your merch, or they can like your Spotify, or they can go to PayPal Me and drop a tip. And so we call it the tip jar, but really it's kind of more of a call to action. And that's kind of like, honestly, I've seen more money generated from the call to action button during a show, in addition to what you've already made off the ticket sales, that it makes sense to do that. There's no organic traffic coming in to those paywall shows. So we have to make sure that it's super interesting, that the show that we're promoting is of interest to people. So a lot of times it's like a special event, like an album release or a collaboration of sorts with somebody else, or maybe it's a full album deep dive, like back, that first album you put out 3 years ago, you're going to deep dive in on that album. And so it's kind of like creating a theme for it. And I think that helps us sell it. Sometimes we do an all request hour, and that goes over really well because you have a chat function in there where people can do the requesting, or you can have them request ahead of time. I have one artist that does an all request, and she actually, allows people the day before to fill their request, and she makes a set list from that. And that also brings people to the table, make sure they're there. Okay, so we said newsletters sell seats. There's public calendars. Every single major media outlet has a calendar right now, and you can upload your event to that calendar. Bands in town, if you don't have one, they're allowing you to do a live show promotion in there. And then, of course, we have our bands in town attached to our websites. So all of the websites get updated the minute I update bands in town. And then you create your Facebook event. All your socials are taken care of. And a lot of times I'll do up to 3 boosts on Facebook for a particular event. You don't have to do that, but I do see maybe like a 10% increase in my ticket sales from those boosts. And I usually don't spend more than $50 on that. But usually the third time is a charm. People see it the first time, they're like, yeah. Second time, they're like, and the third time, they're like, oh, I'll go buy it now. So I try to make sure if I'm going to do it at all, I make sure there's 3 of them. Do a Facebook video the week of. So the band or the artist just record a quick 15, 20, 30 minute, 20, 30 second video and put it up on Facebook, pushing people to the event, and then Instagram takeover the day of. Right now, being summer and being sort of a time when everybody's super busy, it's really hard to get people indoors for a show timely. Like when this thing whole started, I started buying tickets to shows that stage it. And I probably bought 8 shows and then literally missed every single one of them. I just completely blanked that I had a show that day because I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to get in a car and go anywhere. So I literally forgot that it's in the box. Like I have that ticket in a box and it just got lost. So even myself, like now when I buy a ticket the very last minute, the very last day. And where that's, it's good that you're still buying a ticket. It's hard to plan for that. So I would say, day of sales are really big. So you want to make sure you're pushing something out day of, letting people know that you're going to have this thing today. It's happening at this time. Don't forget about it. And if you have a Facebook event and people have signed up for that Facebook event, you want to make sure you push it out again the day of. Go into the discussion of that Facebook event and drop 3 or 4 things in there to make sure that they know today is the day, because we will miss it. It's just a different new normal. And we have to let people know a lot closer to the date over and over and over that it's happening. Then you leave the stream up for 24 hours. It's another thing that Crowdcast will let you do. You can continue to sell tickets for as long as you want. We do 24 hours just to kind of get people in the window. So you can leave it up for 24 hours. Also, it accommodates for time zones, because there's lots of people in UK that would love to watch the show. So we just leave it up for 24 hours and continue to sell tickets. I had a show last week, and this is actually true. I sold 263 seats. 143 people showed up. And I knew they just forgot. And about 2 hours later, another 70 people watched the show, and I could see it overnight, like people watching it, periodically. And then the next day I sold an additional 100 tickets, which is just, it's so out of the ordinary for what we've been used to. So this is sort of, I'm recognizing this is our new normal. And that leads me to the next sort of paywall show, whereas we can try to sell it on our own, or we can be collaborative, and we can grab a couple of artists and get into a site and everybody do the selling and share the selling. And with StreamYard to Crowdcast, you can actually put, I think, almost 9 people in a window. Don't recommend that. I recommend like 4 people in a window. Max. We do a timeout show with the Accidentals, and it's 4 artists in a window, and they can laugh and banter and joke and clap for each other, and that's super fun, and our audiences really love that. That's a show that sells really well, and we put 4 strong artists in that window, and each artist is pushing that out, so that also increases our revenue in there. And I think that the interaction on screen just really makes it a so much better show. And then there's also the chat window. So there's an interaction with the audience as well. And then at the end of that, I think the last one we did, it was the Accidentals and Kim Ritchie and Beth Nielsen Chapman and Steffi James. And it was a great show. We cap out about 300 tickets, which I'm not sure why that is right now, but we're capping out at about 300 tickets. But that's still a great show. And at the end of that, we take those email lists that are generated through Crowdcast, and we can send those out to each of the artists so that they can use those for retargeting and for resale for the next show. And then the last one that we're working on right now, and this is something that Annie brought to my attention last week, and I immediately ran with it because I was super excited about it. And it's sort of becoming maybe the way to do this, at least for the artists that I have, because they all have a really strong online base. Marilyn has an incredible strong online base, and the Accidentals have a really strong online base. So for them, this is a great a way to do things, and that is to put those 4 artists in a window, and each artist be basically attached to a venue. So, like, for instance, the Ark has the Accidentals and Friends. The Bluebird presents Don Henry and Friends. The Swallow Hill presents Ordinary Elephant and Friends. And the Birchmere presents Dar Williams and Friends. And then each venue sells tickets to the same show, and they split it 80-20 with the artists, or 70-30 with the artists. And then at the end of the show, they pay out their artists, and they keep their cut. The cool thing about Crowdcast is it allows you to bypass the window. Allows you to bypass that paywall window. So what you can do is each venue can sell their own tickets and collect their own money, and then send me, the host, a list of emails, and I can input those emails into Crowdcast, and everybody gets a ticket. And so I can not have to sell the tickets through Crowdcast, but each individual venue, that way they can pay out their own artists, and nobody has to worry about getting all that income. And I think this is going to be a really great way to go forward, because we all get that it's exhausting to do a show to a little teeny hole window, and your energy gets drained really fast when there's no energy coming back at you. So to do 4 of these a week was absolutely draining for the bands that I'm working with. And, you know, coming up with an idea to do one show and 4 venues really felt amazing. So, so we're going to give this one a try, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. But also after the show, again, you can leave that up, you can retarget it, you can share the emails from that. It's just, it seems like to me you're sharing base too, which is really great. So, you know, Kim Ritchie bought a whole base with her to that show that now are really, really fond of the Accidentals. So it's great to have that crossover. And from that collaboration, they started writing together, which is even better. You know, it's like if you listen to somebody else's music and you really like it, next thing you know, you're collaborating in deeper ways. And that's huge right now. That collaboration is going to be key 100% all the way around. And that takes me to non-paywall shows.
Hey, Amber, I'm going to interrupt you for a real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
I said I didn't want to, but I wanted, what I forgot to do was tell everybody that if you look in the link of the chat window, Amber has created this amazing document, and it's more or less what she's following and what we're going to be talking about today, that you can all kind of click on. It's in a Google Doc. So probably click on it now if you want to sort of follow along, and maybe that'll help with some of your questions. But this has been amazing. Plus, I want to give credit to that idea about the one show multi venues. As Robert Midas, Carrie Newcomer's husband, brought it up to me when we were talking, and I was like, wow, I got to share this. Okay, cool.
I actually talked to him the next day after you and I talked, and I was like blown away. I mean, you know, I got schooled. He's just really, really smart. And there was a lot of really great ideas, and half of them I've dropped in here just because I think that they're key. You know, the more I talk about how to maximize the base, maximize the income, and minimize the work. You know, I mean, that's what we're all trying to do. And granted, this is a lot of work. This document itself, there's 10 ways to make money here, but it's work. So if we can maximize the income and minimize how much we're really energy-wise putting into that, you know, then it's key for everybody. Okay, non-paywall shows. So if you are like one of my artists, Steffi James, I love her. She's amazing. She's a Detroit artist, but she has 0 base. She's starting at like 1,000 Facebook likes. That's it. She just started her own Patreon. She just put out her first single. It's very minimal as far as online base and no newsletter at all. So in that case, I'm like, forget the paywall shows. Unless you're collaborating with somebody who can bring that base for you, just don't worry about it right now. We got to build the base to get to the paywall. And at that case, ideally, we're going to do a weekly stream. And that weekly stream has to be consistent, same time, same day, start to build that crowd. It needs a theme. So for Steph, we just came up with, we're going to Tuesday nights because there's not that many people on Tuesday nights right now. And we're going to do a vinyl theme because she's a huge vinyl collector. So it's something that fits your brand, that fits who you are. You don't try to be somebody you're not. But she's a huge vinyl collector. So we're going to use that to do a deep dive on a different vinyl every week. And she's going to play 2 songs from that vinyl and then her own songs. And I think she's calling it like Turntable Tuesday or 2 Spins Tuesday. So you give it a name, you give it a theme, and you push it out there. And it's going to take a couple of weeks to get that base coming in. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to be a moderator. So I'm going to jump on her site. And while she's doing her live stream, I'm going to hit the share button. I'm going to grab the link and I'm going to take it and I'm going to drop it into the 30 groups that I belong to on Facebook. So I belong to a ton of live stream for Facebook groups, musicians for musicians groups, vinyl groups, just anything that targets that particular theme that you've got running. So the Accidentals do a 3 for Tea on Thursday, and we can drop ours into Light of Day Tea, and we can drop ours into, you know, so you just find that match, that thing that works. You sign up for that group, you drop it in there. And then I'm also going to the invite button, which is right at the bottom of her description on Facebook. And I'm inviting people to come and watch. Now here's the crazy thing about that invite button, because this is really key. You will double your streams if you invite people. But here's the thing. When you first hit that invite button, there's only 20 names in there. And you're going to invite them all, and you're going to be like, well, I guess that's it. I'm done. but it's not true. There's a little window right beside it, and you can type the alphabet in there. And when you hit A, it's going to populate all your A names. And you go in there and you hit all your A names, and then you go to B. And I usually sit there for like an hour and do BA, BE, BI, BO, BU, C, CA, CE. I'm not even kidding. And I invite people for about an hour. And I do that for the first 3 shows, and then I'm out. It's like, that's it, 3 shows. So I'm dropping those shares into Facebook groups. I'm actually going in and I'm inviting people. I'm asking my friends to share it out for that first 3 weeks. And honestly, if you know other bands who need a share swap where you share out their, their live streams and they share out your live streams, the more places you can put that stream on Facebook while you're playing, the more likely you are to build that base. And yeah, invites, shares, streams. And if you're building that base and we get that base to 2,000, 3,000 people watching, now we can feel pretty comfortable to go out and get sponsors. All right. So we want to get that base up. And I feel like I'm missing one more thing. The shares and the swaps. It'll probably come to me later. So anyway, at that point, we can go out and we can ask for some sponsorships. And I think I didn't say this, but obviously it's pretty obvious. You want to put your donation link in your description. And one of the things when the Accidentals first started doing this, we had people hitting us up afterwards going, I don't have a PayPal. I only have Venmo. I don't have a Venmo. I only have Cash App. So before you even get started, go ahead and get all 5 of the majors. Get the Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Google, and Stripe. And Stripe is actually the paywall for Crowdcast, and it's your paywall for bands in town. So it's good to have one. It's just sort of the oddball, but we have all 5 of those, put all 5 in the window. No excuse now not to drop a tip. All right, so let's talk about sponsors real quick. When you get to that 3,000 to 5,000 mark, it's easy to go out there and hook up with a sponsor. And I think the biggest piece about getting a sponsor is like we're scared to sell ourselves or we're scared to ask for a handout. You're not getting a handout. You've worked for this base, right? And you've got 3,000 to 5,000 people in there watching your show over a period of time. And so what you can do for the sponsor is in StreamYard, you can put an overlay with their logo on your site while you're playing. You can throw their links in your description. You can actually share to their page while you're doing your live stream or cross post to their page, either one. And I think it's kind of a win-win because right now their marketing is, it's locally driven. So if you are an act that is building your base locally and you have relationships already, that's where you start. Start local, start relationships. So for instance, the Accidentals have a merchandiser called TCTs. We gave him a call and said, how about we wear your t-shirts and you sponsor this live stream? It is not an argument. He was like, heck yeah. It's $100 a week per sponsor is what we went after. And we're trying to get 4 sponsors per artist. So it's $1,200 a month coming in sponsorships for your weekly stream. And he was totally on board. Then we went to the local bookstore because we can do in that live stream, we can give away a book or we can talk about books. And we can kind of push people to your books, and they're complete book nerds, so it works. And we did that, and he came on board, no problem. And then the local co-op, which their food sellers are still making money right now. So for them, they supported music in their cafe prior to, so we figured they'd be all down to support local music during. And so we hit them up and we said, it's $100 a month. Are you down for that? And they're like, absolutely. So they actually play it in their cafe over their TVs in the cafe. They go ahead and they push it out to their TVs in their cafe while we're live, which is super nice. So that is the sponsorship thing. And I honestly send out an email and I say, I have a live stream on Thursday at 4 o'clock. Right now, I'm getting 4,000 views a week. I think the Accidentals are up to 8 a week, and I can say, we'd love to highlight your business and talk a little bit about it at the beginning of our live stream. We'd like to put your description or your links in our description, and we'll put an overlay on our page so that the whole entire hour, your logo's in the corner. There's no way they'll say no to that for $100 a week. And it's been really good for us for the last couple of months to have that extra income coming in. I'm going to let the accidentals talk about workshops and teaching and session work. But I'll say for the workshops in the fall, right before COVID hit, we had live workshops planned for them in middle schools. And so when COVID hit, we simply asked them to go online with those workshops. And those workshops went so well that we're already planning for October for additional workshops for those schools. And that is a really great money generator. And I'll just let them talk a minute about what they did those workshops on, and also the teaching, the online teaching, which has become kind of a very popular thing right now. And I'll let them talk about that.
Cool. All right. So
Sweet.
we're spotlighted and we're unmuted, so we're good to talk about this. I'll quickly touch on the tech side of how we pull that off. We're completely online, so it's hard when you can't see any of your students. There's no face-to-face connection there, because what we usually do is OBS to Crowdcast. And the reason why we do Crowdcast is because it's just the most secure for a group of kids to get in there. They drop in their school emails, or they get added, and they have the ability to comment and chat. You can ban any comments that come in that aren't age appropriate, which is important. And you can basically have that side of the issue control. The teacher can log in and also moderate the chat and be there and be interactive. And typically that's how we usually roll that. We go from OBS or StreamYard into Crowdcast and then invite the kids to get on there, and it's a private show.
Yeah, the other thing that we liked about Crowdcast was the fact that this was early on during quarantine, so a lot of the students didn't have to go and create an account or download anything. All they have to do is put in their email and click on the link. But we have, we've been teaching workshops and incorporating it into our tour schedule for the last 5 years, and so sometimes we'll do it at music festivals, or we'll go into a classroom, or we'll teach at like a workshop for all ages. Sometimes, like the real little kids will do like ukuleles and kazoo, or we'll go all the way to adult age. And sometimes we will talk about songwriting. Sometimes we'll talk about alternative strings and our backgrounds as violin and cello and guitar and percussion players, and especially finding a way to do alternative styles with the strings. But translating that to an online workshop was something we focused really heavily on this spring before the schools were out. And one of the biggest challenges, I think, was making it really interactive. That's one thing we have been focusing on for the live streams as well, because especially when you have a lot of middle schoolers who they can't see you, there's no connection, we find ourselves really asking a lot of questions. We wrote songs. We had the students pick a sentence from their favorite book. They came prepared to the workshop and entered it into the chat. We saw a bunch of great comments and ended up writing songs on the spot, and tried to put on a performance. So the workshops, they were really fun. But there's some other different techniques that, we know we have friends who are teaching online lessons. I know our friend Phoebe Hunt in Nashville, she created a 30-day practice method book for any age and instrument. She's selling those. There's a lot of different techniques for teaching.
Mm-hmm. A while back, we actually did a workshop for Buist on improvisation, which is funny because when you improvise together, usually you're in the same room having a jam session, and all these people, we just told them to bring their instruments and stay on the other side of the screen. And what happened was we would kind of play the song, we'd each take a solo, and then we'd be like, your turn, and we'd just play the backing chords, and people behind their computers would play this little solo. We can't hear it obviously or see them, but the idea is that they're able to kind of jam along in their own space and have some backing music to practice to.
And I think we told them to, take a video of yourself jamming along with the stream and shoot it to us on social media.
We got some good ones. Yeah, so that was really cool. And for the songwriting thing, like Katie said, we came in thinking, all right, how are we going to make this incredibly interactive? Let's get some questions ahead of time, like, hey, bring your favorite sentence from your favorite book to this thing, and then we're going to paraphrase it and turn it into this song. And there was such an intense response from that we actually had to end up recording the background chords and everything that we did, and we sent them to the schools, and kids continued to write the song after we were done. So there's ways to be interactive online. Even if you can't see your audience, you can still be talking to them and asking them questions, and honestly, you will get responses because people are desperate for contact right now.
Exactly. I think it's a matter of if you have relationships with your local schools too. We already had workshops set up, like Amber mentioned. We were really lucky. But if you reaching out to your local schools, I think there's a big need for a lot of people wanting online education. But even one-to-one education, I think people, like if you're interested in like teaching a songwriting workshop and put it out there online, I think we have friends who are doing that as well. So
like over Zoom.
Yeah, it could be one-on-one, it could be a school. There's a lot of different avenues.
I want to mention real quick too that I just noticed last week there's a site called outschool.com, and evidently there's quite a few of these now where they're offering these lessons online, and they put them online for you, and they have exact times on there, and then for a fee they sell it for you, and there's probably like 3,000 lessons in there, so people just go to a specific day, scroll, and pick something for their kid. And I think right now that's amazing. I'm actually using that for my 10-year-old right now, and you know, she can be online at a school for you know, an hour or two, and give me a breather.
Yeah,
so that's really nice.
Amber sent us a screenshot, and I was like, I wish I was taking half those classes. They look so cool.
Yeah, so you can list on outschool.com, just as one of those quick ways to get listed and start teaching.
Oh yeah, that's great. That link is also on your handout here too. So just a quick time check. We were talking about session work. I think you guys were gonna touch on session work. Would be really cool just to give us
Well, it's so funny. I kind of commented it on our latest Patreon tour blog, which we do every week, but we moved to Nashville. We moved half our lives to Nashville to try and do co-writing and session work, and now we're doing co-writing and session work back in Traverse City, over a computer. The same things that we were doing and planning on doing by being in Nashville, we're doing right now. So the ways to do that, we've kind of put ourselves out there. We've reached out and let studios and producers know that we're working. We made kind of a rudimentary studio based on the gear that we already had. And I actually picked up session work just from the last farm call that I did, because there's so many musicians who are wanting to collaborate and record things right now. You know, if you put yourself out there being like, hey, I play mandolin, hey, I play fiddle, I do vocals, I can do any of those things for local union rate, or I charge a flat rate of this, $50 a track or something like that. You can pick up session work right now remotely, and they can send you a WAV file. The person who is asking for work will send you a WAV file, and you'll put work on it and then send it back. As simple as that, really. It's pretty incredible. So we've been doing some session work like that, and have done it in the past. There's this K-pop group called BTS, and they work out of they're literally from Korea, and we got reached out to, and they were this writer for them was like, hey, can you throw a string section on top of this? And I was like, okay, well, I don't really have any studios open or available right now, but I can record it in my house. And I recorded some concepts. Kate threw some concepts on there, and we sent it back remotely, and they released the track. So that's as easy as it gets for session work. Honestly, at this point, you can continue to do that in quarantine.
And in terms
easy, of not counting all the work you guys did to get as good as you are, so that people could want you for session work. But yeah, amazing. I'm sorry, Michael, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, in terms of setup, in terms of gear that you would need if you're streaming already, most likely you've heard to grab an interface or to have a microphone.
A USB mic, yeah.
A USB mic. And honestly, all you need is some of that, and if you have a Mac computer, it comes with GarageBand already. You can download that. I know there's a couple of other free digital audio workspaces you can download for Windows computers as well.
Yeah.
So all in all, it's not a huge investment to be able to have the ability to record things at the house. Maybe a couple $100 at most.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a tech talk in our future.
We were just talking about this morning, how, people think because GarageBand comes with, laptop with your laptop that it's not good enough to record on, but it truly is. We've sent tons of tracks via GarageBand before. I mean,
I sent BTS tracks for garage bands, and they're like one of the biggest bands out there right now. It's fine. You can use that.
I always joke, lots can be done in post. So
Yeah.
With a good engineer.
that's
All right. Well, I don't know. Amber, is it time for me to spotlight Jay? Thanks, you guys. I know we're coming back to you to talk Patreon in a bit. So.
Yeah, before we go, I just want to say one more thing. When on the session work stuff is, again, the Facebook forums are key. If you get into those Facebook forums and you let people know what you do, especially there are so many musician forums, there's a ton. And if you get into those forums and you let people know what you're looking to do, you know, people will reach out. So
yeah, good call. I happen to know of a couple of good forums I could put you in touch with. Hi, Don. Hey, Jay.
Hey.
How are you? Thanks for
Good.
joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
What's on your mind? I think
so. We'll talk about experiences a little bit. In case you haven't played with experiences, we'll kind of go through a little bit of background. You know, years ago, they started these paid meet and greets, and that kind of grew into you know, little acoustic performances before shows, or some bands were having people come to the show early and go to each one of their stations and pose on the stage. And it really blossomed into what Pledge Music was doing, which was, you know, kind of the new Tower Records in a way. Pledge Music would have things like, yeah, they'd have the typical shirts and CDs and vinyl and that sort of thing, but you could also start getting into some of these experiences. And it started off with maybe a signed drum head or a used road case, some one-off items, maybe a costume that was used on stage. But then it started getting into things like, you know, go record shopping with the band, have dinner with the band, you know, some of those type things. So before we get into some of those, you know, just following along with this outline, you know, setting up a landing page is crucial for experiences, but you don't have to be afraid of that, because there's kind of these simple, easy to use plug and play solutions. A couple examples we have here, you know, Shopify, you know, for the retail end of it. I'm a big fan of Bandzoogle. It's a company that was created for musicians, by musicians. And what I like about Bandzoogle, and I've built a few sites on their platform, is that they don't take commission. So they've got kind of a Patreon type module. They have sort of a Pledge Music module. But all of this commerce that takes place on your site, they don't take commission on, which is kind of cool. And then for experiences, a couple of my artists are using this company called Bandware, and I got to know them because they were the back end of Pledge Music, a lot of the Pledge Music fulfillment, and they were solid. So I've used them, but there are other folks out there. These are just a few examples. So then that leads you to, well, what kind of experiences are you willing to do, and what can you actually fulfill? So that could start with some real basic things. You know, the accidentals were just talking about music lessons. That's one of the things that we found for our artists on their experiences for sale, is maybe a personal one-on-one training session or songwriting session. Some of the experiences that are doing really well are, you know, you can record with the members of the band, or they'll record one of your songs. You could send your lyrics and they'll write a song around it. A lot of this stuff kind of came from, if you've ever been to cameo.com, they started off pretty small, just selling basic greetings. And that's kind of grown to now people are very comfortable doing these things, but you have to be prepared to fulfill them. We had one artist who ran into some trouble with fulfillment, and these are your most hardcore fans. And those are the last people you want to have a bad experience. So you need to be prepared with that. Other things that you may be doing for free right now, like, you know, video messages to fans, or happy birthday messages, or outgoing phone messages, things like that. If you have a suite of these services, you can generate a lot of revenue if you have the right base, and we're finding that to be true. Preparing for those things, one of the bullet points on here is creating graphics, and that doesn't have to be intimidating. You don't have to be a graphic designer, although having access to one certainly helps. But there are services out there like Canva, Envato Elements is really good, and I'm a big fan of Fiverr to go on and get inexpensive graphics and other types of help. So I think that in a nutshell, you just need to kind of find out what experiences you're comfortable with, which ones you think you can fulfill easily. But I think you might find that your fans will really enjoy them and will participate cheerfully in some of those. We were really surprised at two things. One, when we first started doing paid meet and greets back in the late 90s, early 2000s, seeing that people were coming back multiple times was really surprising, that they would do that time and time again. And I think by doing this recently, with the fall of Pledge Music and having that kind of outlet gone, some of our artists are surprised that fans will want some of these things. And there may be some things in your garage that you may not think that someone would be interested in. One of my clients is a session keyboard player, and he plays with some of the biggest names in the business. He's got a garage full of keyboards. Well, he doesn't really need those or want those anymore. So we're putting some of these things up, and some of these fans are thrilled to have one of his keyboards, in their collection, whether it's signed or not. Maybe it's a Rode used guitar case, an Anvil case, or something like that. To some of these fans, those are premium items, and it just means that you kind of open up your mind to what other people will find valuable and what you're comfortable kind of putting on your store. But it's just above and beyond the regular, CD, vinyl, t-shirt, poster kind of thing.
Cool. You
I would
said,
add, I'm sorry, Annie. Go ahead.
no, that's okay. I just wanted you to re-say something. When you were talking about graphics, you mentioned Canva, I think Envato Elements,
Yeah.
and there was a third thing that
Fiverr. It's Fiverr. And listen, my brother is a professional graphic designer, and if I'm designing an album cover, I'm probably going to go with some professional. But there are times in the ideation process, there are times when you're putting together ideas. Maybe you want a bunch of different logos. Maybe you want to look at some different style of artwork. They've got all sorts of artists there that'll do like a graphic novel type treatment, or they'll do photorealistic sketches, or whatever you can imagine they have on Fiverr. And then there's a second level of that called Fiverr Pro. It just gives you more opportunities, because the reason it's called Fiverr is the prices kind of start at $5. So you don't have to, you can do all of these things without investing a ton of money initially.
interesting. Yeah. I'm sorry, Amber, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, one of the things that that I think is really helpful too, when Jay was saying, like, sometimes you say you can do this and then you run out of time. The experience is on Bandzoogle. It allows you to add a calendar where that particular experience has an exact date and time, or several dates and times that you are going to be available. And then when you buy it, you just simply pick your day and your time, and that goes to the artist. So the artist doesn't have to do a lot of chasing down of who and what. It just comes in, it's on the calendar. They wake up and figure out what they do that day. So it's really seamless on Bandzoogle. And I didn't know about the platform before Jay, and I absolutely fell in love with it last week when I was really kind of digging into what they can do. It's cool.
We were going to get a Bandzoogle rep in here too.
Yeah.
It was Jay. Was there? Were you talking a little bit more about merchandise, or did you cover all that right now?
I think I've kind of covered, and certainly, Amber and the band can talk through. They've got more experience with the merch side than I do, but I guess the point is just kind of looking and seeing what things you're comfortable doing, and seeing what other artists are doing. And the bottom line is we like to try things and fail fast. And if you have ideas, try them, see if they resonate, if you get engagement with them. But you need to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right, Amber, I'm spotlighting you again. Are we going back to the accidentals? I don't know. You're running this
No,
show.
I'm gonna talk a second about the merch, because there was two ideas that I want to make sure kind of get out there that I think are really helpful. One was I earlier in the year was hanging out with a band called Dawson Hollow, and they had this great idea. In their repertoire, they had these one-off shirts. So they had gone into thrift shops and they'd bought a bunch of T-shirts and they'd stamped them with their own brand. And they were all different sizes and all different colors, and there was nothing consistent about them. So they decided to sell them on Insta stories, and they sold $800 worth of shirts in 2 days. And I was a little blown away by that. So I thought, well, we have all these one-off merch items sitting in the garage. Why not try that? And I think Katie took the photos. He said, just put these photos up on put your T-shirt on a wall, take a photo of it, pop it up on Instagram stories, and then basically the first person to comment on that they would like it, they can go to your PayPal and pay for it, and then you would ship it out. And at first I was like, this seems like a lot of work. And maybe Katie can talk to it, but I know that the Accidentals also sold every piece of leftover merch that we had sitting in boxes for the past year. Just a bunch of one-off kind of things. She was able to move those. And so that's one of those things that I think is just like a cool, quick hack. And I think Jay's right. It's the weird stuff that you got to try, because, I don't know if you guys remember the cat tights for the Accidentals, but those pretty much literally paid for 3 tours. So I think, at some point you gotta have to find that one big margin item. And the more we try that. I saw somebody the other day who had taken song lyrics and just basically written them on a white canvas and framed it and splashed some paint on it and sold it for $100. So it's that kind of stuff that I think we can make money off of, no matter what level you are at your base. If you put that out there, especially Insta stories, which seem to be doing a really good job of those one-off things.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned the signed lyrics thing, Amber, because that's one of our biggest sellers right now. And it was really surprising. We actually started making stationery with the band's logo on it, and they would handwrite the lyrics and then say to whoever on it. And those things are selling for $100 a piece, and people are framing them. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's been a big seller.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, I'm going to actually move us along here just because I want to make sure we get to the Patreon moment. So there's some really great information in this document that Amber has sent, talking about organizing your office and selling music, backing tracks. I think all that's really, hopefully fairly self-explanatory to most of you. So I would just really love the Accidentals to maybe talk for a few minutes about your Patreon experiences. And, think just for the rest of us who don't have is the kinds of following that you guys already have, maybe thinking, and I know Amber was talking a little bit about Steffi building her Patreon page from the ground up. So, but just some of the ideas that you guys have been using to entice your fans.
Yeah, no, I think the hardest part about Patreon is just getting started, and figuring out like what kind of things do I want to do for people, and how is that going to affect my time, and how do I have to time manage it. And we do a lot right now because that's just the kind of people we are. But there's people who just put up like one thing a week or even one thing a month, and that's enough to sustain their base. Just depends on what's comfortable for them. So going off of that, I would say if you're going to start a Patreon, just do what's within your comfort zone and do what's authentic to you. So, for instance, I follow a guy on Patreon who really likes to play D&D. It has nothing to do with his business, which is botany art. He, like, makes plants out of nothing, basically. But it has everything to do with what he likes to do. And he has 500 patrons right now. They all pay $5 a month, and then they can watch this exclusive D&D thing that he does with, like, 4 or 5 patrons every month. So that's just one thing that he does. Has nothing to do with what he normally does, but people like it because it's a interactive one-on-one thing. Some of the things that we do a throwback album review. So we have the patrons pick an album that they would like to bring to the table. Everybody listens to it. About 2 weeks go by, and then we set up a Zoom call and we talk about the album. We have usually like a list of questions like, hey, what's your favorite song on this record? Or like, if you could take one song off this record, which one would it be? Or like, what was this to you? What genre was this to you? What was it like when it came out? How was it interpreted? All those questions just to talk about the experience. People sign up on Patreon for, I think, 3 reasons. One, because they are artists or are striving to be artists and want inspiration. 2, because they want an interactive experience with you and want to know the behind the scenes and how the songs get made and how the art gets made. And 3, because they have a perspective that they'd like to share with you. So those are things that we really think about, like, all right, are these tiers that we have picked out satisfying one or all 3 of these things? Going off of that, the other thing that we do is we have a book club that happens once a month. Same idea. We pick a book, or we have patrons bring a book to the table. We all read it over the course of a month. You're not obligated to finish it. And then we come to the table at the end, we do a Zoom call, and we talk about the book. And everybody shares their perspective, like, hey, was there a character that you resonated with? And, what did you think about it and all that stuff? And it's really, like, wholesome. Like, we have made sort of a family. All the patrons talk to each other. They like form relationships. They come from all over. There's people from LA, there's people from Hawaii, there's people from Chicago, and they all talk to each other like they know each other pretty intimately, like they're friends, like they would go get a beer together, So that's just the idea of it. It's not so scary as much. It just turns into this hang, and it's never something that feels like a chore or a task at that point. It's more like, oh man, I'm getting on the phone with my friends today, That's what it ends up feeling like.
Yeah, like we did some Patreon exclusive streams at the beginning of the quarantine, and it was super loose. Like we did one where the first half of the stream was these guys straightening my hair.
Yep.
And just chatting with all of the patrons, and people loved it. Like, it was so much fun, and they gave me braids. I looked like Willie Nelson.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable.
Super fun.
If you're not familiar with Patreon, it's a really simple concept. It's just a website. Everyone who wants to go to it, they sign up. They decide what amount they want to pay every month. There is a per product option, but we highly encourage to set up your Patreon so people can choose $5 a month, $10 a month, up to whatever you want, and then they get the content in their email inbox.
Yep.
Or if you want to ship out mail as well. But what was so great for us is we set it up after our trailer got stolen last year, but it was great timing because it just provides that monthly income that, since we don't have our show, we're not on tour anymore, having that is super nice. And being able to collaborate with our friends who have their own Patreon pages, and what Amber's mentioning about swapping bases and saying, hey, will you put up our Patreon link if we put up your Patreon link, especially I feel like everyone has some of those fans. Like, before we did Patreon, we had fans who were really close and would come out to all of our shows, and sometimes people would just say, hey, how can I help you? Can I give you $5 gas money? And now we say, sign up on Patreon and you get some free stuff with it.
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys talk about what you did with Good Morning Bedlam?
Yeah, we did, so Good Morning Begum's a band that we did a show with in Minneapolis, and we had an extra day there, so we were like, let's go hang out at their house, and then this idea came about, let's record, a one-off cover of the song we both like, which was I Blew It Off by the Punch Brothers. So all of us played, different instruments, we all learned the song in, 30 minutes, and then we did a one take of it, and weren't really expecting it to be amazing or polished, because that's not what Patreon is for. It's for, the behind the scenes and the jam and the intimate look. And Good Morning Bedlam put it up as an exclusive on their Patreon for a day, and they were like, hey, we were able to share it to the XNLs, and we were like, hey, if you want to check out this video of us performing with Good Morning Bedlam, go sign up for Good Morning Bedlam's Patreon, and then vice versa with us. Hey, if you want to check out this video, go check out the XNL's Patreon, and that's what Good Morning Bedlam posted. So it was this cross-pollination thing. We did the same thing with Megan Slankard, where we did a song together, and we were able to kind of boost each other's Patreon pages, and all of Megan's patrons came to our page, and a bunch of our XNL's patrons came to Megan's page. So that's what's really nice about Patreon is it's very collaborative heavy. And speaking of like growing it, like that's the kind of stuff that you should do if you start a Patreon, like offer incentives to sign up for like a limited time. We were selling gator masks for a while for anybody who signed up within the week, and that made a ton of new patrons happen really quickly. And once they're on Patreon, they tend to stick around. So that's been really cool. You could collaborate with another artist like Megan Slinkert and Good Morning Bedlam. We just chose friends of ours, and you can even do it remotely by just recording a video of yourself and then sending it to them and they play along, that kind of thing. We put snippets of Patreon content on social media just to incentivize people. Like I'll write a tour blog and we'll just post like a paragraph and be like, check out the rest on Patreon, and people go sign up. Yeah, we started releasing studio footage on Patreon exclusively. So we're being like, hey, if you want to be part of like the process of us recording our album in our attic, you need to go to Patreon. Like, it's not going to be on YouTube. It's not going to be anywhere else. It's going to be on Patreon. And also, the last thing that we did, instead of like putting all the tips everywhere and just like collecting money, we were just like, hey, if you really want to give us a good tip, like sign up for $5 a month on Patreon. Even just do it for 1 month. Like, we don't care. Just like, that's where you should go if you really want to help us out right now, and you get something out of it. It's like Netflix, where like you pay a certain amount a month and you get all this content, and it's way more entertaining than just sending your money off into the abyss, you know? So those are things that we do, and the tiers that we have, we start at like $5, $10, $20, $50, and 100, and we actually have more $100 patrons than we do 50. So it's just crazy. Like, some people, it just depends on what your benefits are. For the $100, we do this thing called traditions, or I think it's 50 actually. We do a thing called traditions, which is where every Saturday we ask for, we like put out a prompt like, hey, what's the weirdest scar you've ever gotten? And people will like tell us these intense stories and like really cool inspirational things, and sometimes we'll write songs about it and send it back to them. Or we'll do faced like one-on-one things with them, where like if they want to write a song that day, or if they just want to talk about this certain thing, then we'll do that for like an hour and just hang out, and that's been really cool. So there's lots of things. It's just, I think if we were gonna say like the overall thing about Patreon, I would just say, like, don't feel pressured to do everything. Just do one thing a month if that feels good, one thing a week if that feels good, and do something that's within your comfort zone. If you like to do art, do a live stream of you doing art and talk to your base and have them recommend like what you should draw today. If you like to do D&D like I do, then like have a D&D campaign with fellow patrons online. Like, just do what's within your comfort zone.
I think that's great advice. I do. I think all of this has been amazing. And I'm going to flip back to our mama figure here. Hi, sorry. I'm sorry. You're so young. But you can't deny the resemblance. You and Sam are just like sis.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful to you for gathering this collection of amazing information and awesome people joining us today. We have 0 questions. Like, nobody has raised their hand. I'm sorry, we do have one question, and I'm going to throw this at you because I'm pretty sure it's for you. Elaine is asking, at what point do you add your donation links if you are starting a live stream? When you start with 0 views, is it 500 views weekly? 1,000? Elaine, are you around? Because I might need you to be more clear on this question. Where are you? Can I spotlight you, or at least unmute you so I can get the question?
So I think I got it. I think that
Go ahead.
I think that there was 2 things. One, I mentioned going for the sponsorships when you hit that 5,000 mark. Yeah, and I don't want to be like, these are suggestions, so they're not like in stone. If you feel like at 1,000 views you can go to someone and ask them to sponsor you, do that. If you have a local relationship with somebody, they're going to come on board just simply to support. So do that. As far as the donation links go, I put those there from the first day on. So the minute that you go live, that should already be in your description. And you can do it in a way that doesn't seem pushy, I guess. Sab, do you and Katie want to talk about how to kind of write that description so that it doesn't come across like desperate?
We typically just put like, hey, welcome to we do a live stream every week called 3 for Tea at 3 p.m. where we just drink tea and we talk about our podcast, and then we play some songs and recommend a book. And the way that I write the description is like, hey, welcome to 3 for Tea. We're gonna do this, 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 and this, and like, you know, and chew bubblegum, and we're all out of bubblegum, so come hang. And also, if you feel like folding your feelings and putting them somewhere, feel free to donate at this tip link, or feel free to join our Patreon. This is what we do here. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, I hate asking people for money. Honestly, it makes me so uncomfortable, and I'm getting over it. But what I found is, even when we put out the links, there's always one person who asks, I want to give something, where can I send it? So I've kind of gotten over just being able to say, if you want to, here's the link.
There was like a month where we were just doing shows for charity causes, and people were like, yeah, that's nice, but where can we tip the band? Like, they wanted to know, even though we didn't have it up. So people want to support you right now. It shouldn't feel uncomfortable to ask. We're doing a job.
I was going to say, it's not like you're asking for free money. You guys are working really, really hard, and, you know, you're putting yourselves out there. And I think honestly, that's great advice. So I'm going to bring us back to Amber. And Elaine, did we get your question answered? You're still unmuted if you want to follow up. If not, all right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, I think what I would like very much is if, I don't know, Amber, you want to give us some closing remarks? And again, this document is awesome. We will send a follow-up thank you with all the links. And I've added a few other things that were not on this sheet that, you know, I think Jay mentioned Bandzoogle and Bandware and a couple other things that we'll just throw in the email since you're here. And if you're out there on Facebook land joining us, how cool is that? This is our first time, so thank you for being there. This will be up on our website if you want to watch it again. There was a lot of amazing info. But how about if we just walk around the room one more time and just, you know, have all three of you guys just give us some parting remarks.
Yeah, so again, it's a lot of information. Just one of those things, if one of those things works for you. But also, I know that like there's some people on here who are going to have a great base and can grab a couple of these things and run with them. And then there's going to be people who are really starting from scratch with the online thing. You know, like Steffi, she's played lots of live shows, but really not paid attention to online socials. And this is our new world. So, I honestly have no problem having a one-on-one call with you and kind of explaining how to level up from wherever you are. I don't care where you are. I mean, we'll figure out how to level up from there, because it's so doable. And I have that call with Steph every day. We talk about, okay, how can we build this out in the next couple of weeks? And how can we really, you know, maximize, and how can we share and cross-post? And who do you know? And who cares about you? And let's grab those people and ask them to support, because really it just takes a couple of weeks of building it, and then it'll start to organically grow itself. Like, it will really start to organically grow once you've got some people in there and they start talking and they start sharing. And I know now when we do a live stream, when the Accidentals do a live stream, every single one of those live streams I see 30 shares on, and nobody's asking them to share. They just automatically go and share. And so that's the point you want to get to. And it starts by cultivating that. And so we can do the work in the beginning and it'll pay off in the end. And I honestly think if you stick to a couple of these things, they will work, but it takes time, and you can't expect it to put it up and it happens tomorrow. It won't. You're going to put it up and you're going to be disappointed. And then the next day you're going to put it up again and you're going to be even more disappointed. And the third day you're going to put up and you'll be like, I suck, right? And then the fourth day, boom, everybody's going to be there and you're going to be like, whoa, what just happened? That's the way this whole business is. So all I can tell you is the most resilient person is successful. And no matter what happens, you just got to like keep getting at it, and it'll eventually come. I used to say all the time, throw it against the wall, see what sticks. I mean, that's how we have spent, 5-6 years growing something. But in this case, a lot of these things you can start right now and you can see money next month. if you stick with it.
That's awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. Hey Jay, any parting words for us? I
Well,
love
I just
well,
want to touch on what Amber just said, because my mentor for many years at Universal used to tell me that the people think that the road to success is from here to there, but it's like fail, 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 success. And I couldn't agree with that anymore. Just a couple of parting thoughts. One is that, yeah, it's a streaming world out there right now. It's a majority of the revenue, but there's definitely still a market for CDs and vinyl, especially, you know, if they're signed. I mean, obviously you want to have something like that at the merch table when you're playing live, but people want something tactile, tangible that they can have, and I always encourage that. But more importantly, try new things. I mean, it sounds pedantic, but do more of what's working and less of what doesn't. And in order to do that, you're going to have to try some things. And I'm a big fan of experiences now, because I've seen uh, globally how these fans react to having the opportunity to interact with artists, to actually maybe even take a music lesson, or have them place backing vocals or strings on their track. I mean, these are things that are very important and very valuable to some of these folks. And I get to see, because I manage some of these websites, I get to see some of the comments coming through from fans all over the world, and they're very emotional, and they're very powerful. So I would just encourage folks to experiment with experiences.
I really appreciate your time today. All right, guys, you get the last word. Well, I do, but you get the second.
Yeah. I think because music looks so different right now, I was talking about yesterday, we used to tour 250 shows a year. We used to travel the country. We used to like be in a bunch of different places. And so it looks really different right now. But you have to remember that the job has always been the same. And the job with music is to try and capture stories and to express something that is universally a sentiment, whether it be vague or concrete. We are, at the end of the day, trying to leave a mark that can be understood by everybody to some extent, or whoever needs it. We need music. We always will. And so that's why it's so important to do things that fulfill you too. You can't make music in isolation. You can't make music without hearing the stories that you should write about. You have to continue to interact with people, continue to talk to the people who support you. They see something in you that they need too, and you need them as well. Like, you need the support and the content, I guess, of what they're saying. So that's why Patreon is so inspirational. It's made our art better. The shows that we ask questions, we get book recommendations from people. We ask, what are they grateful for today? That's fulfilling for us too. It's not like we're just doing, like, walking through the methodical tasks. We're thinking, all right, what are things that are gonna creatively inspire us instead of feeling like work? It shouldn't always feel like work. There will be times where it feels like work, but there will also be times where you're like, what is something that I can do that satisfies the work part, but also feels like it's fulfilling me creatively, and start there, because it's easy to forget why we're doing this right now. It's really easy to forget, and just to remember that the job will always be the same, I think helps.
Yeah, I think also that if you haven't checked out the Google Doc in the chat as well, that Amber put together with all the different links. I mean, everyone's at a different place. Everyone, is a different kind of artist, different kind of musician, and I think there's so many different ways that you can go about. I mean, we're all trying to survive. We're all trying to make this our living. So even like she said, if you can just do one or two of those ways, I think it's super helpful. I mean, the world's not going back to like mega arena shows anytime soon. That's one thing that I've heard that actually made me feel better. Now is the time for independent musicians to connect.
We're all on an equal platform now. Even the big musicians, we're all doing the same live streams.
Yep. Yep. Michael, any last words?
To quote Sam Reich, the only way to start is by starting, and the only way to begin is by beginning. So let's begin.
I love that. Perfect. Oh my God. All right. Well, this has been really wonderful and inspiring, and I think that it's time to go to gallery view and do I think it's the Quaker applause, right? Where you put your hands up in the window and lay it on us, because this has been a really excellent hour and then some. And we're so glad y'all joined us today. We definitely want your feedback. We definitely want you to come back. And for those of you who heard the word StreamYard a few times, I believe our very own Brianna Lane is going to do a deep dive into StreamYard on Tuesday. So some of the stuff that Amber was talking about will be, you know, the next thing you can plow into. So thanks again to Amber and Jay and the Accidentals, all you guys, Katie, Sav, Michael. It was great. And the awful part of saying goodbye and the abrupt farewell will begin any moment now. So give me a big fat wave before you go. Mwah. Have a great weekend, everybody.